Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's your boy T-Man representing Turn 1 Gaming, and today we got a deck profile for you guys. I know I haven't been around, but I'm back, and we're back at it again. Let's get this deck profile on the way. It is a 42 card main deck, but you can make some changes if you like. So let's get gaming. Alright guys, starting with the main deck, we of course are going to be playing 3 copies of Alistair the Invoker. Is theoretically the only normal summon of the deck. You can make other normal summons, but definitely want to be normal summoning this. Why? Because it searches you a fusion on normal summon, which is Invocation, and this card is a 1-card Macabre, which gives you a negate. 3 copies of Alistair the Invoker. Also, you can discard it from your hand to target 1 fusion monster you control on the field, and it gains 1,000 attack and defense for the rest of the turn, which can be activated in the damage step. So thinking about that. Moving on to the Shaddoll monsters, we are playing 2 Red Shaddoll Wendy. This is just one of the better Shaddolls. This one summons from the deck any Shaddoll monster that you need. And if you need it for either the next turn for drawing, like for you can summon Beast, or if you just need another Shaddoll body on the field so that you can use it as fusion material as well and get that effect as well. Then you play 2 Squamata. 2 Squamata. Squamata gives you any Shaddoll card that you want. This card is very good. You play 2 and 2 because those 2 are the best ones to play, or at least to see in your opening hand. Alright, moving on to the 1-ofs, you play the 1 of Beast for draw power, the 1 of Hedgehog to either get you a monster to your hand because you need it, or you can set it off of Wendy so that on the following turn you can search a spell or trap, a Shaddoll spell or trap. Or if you send the rush as well, you can flip it on your turn and then get the fusion spell that you need, or the Shaddoll card that you need. Then you play the 1 of Genius. Genius, you don't have to play Genius. I just like it because it can help break boards. It comes up. It's very useful, and it gives you a different attribute as well, so you can consistently make Abkalom. Right? If you don't want to play Genius, you can play Dragon. You can play Dragon, or you can play another copy of Squamata or another copy of Wendy. Either way, it doesn't matter. All those cards are good. Then you play the 1 of Ariel. Ariel is probably debatable that it is one of the better cards, at least in this format, because DD crowing your opponent 3 cards, it's good, it's nice. You know what I mean? So you can even cut the Genius and just play another Ariel if you like. I've been debating on playing 2, but for right now we're just playing 1. Let's keep it pushing. That's gonna be it for the Shaddoll cards, Shaddoll monsters. I'm sorry. And then you play the Dogmatika package, which you play 1 and 1 Fleur-de-Lis, 1 Ecclesia. Typically, you play two monsters because if you draw 1, then your Nadir Servant is kind of dead. But the good thing about these is that they're both light targets for Construct, and Nadir Servant can add them from the graveyard. So they're recurable. So you only play 1 Ecclesia and 1 Fleur-de-Lis. Now moving on to the hand traps. These hand traps you can play whatever you want. I just decided to play 2 extra, which is why the deck count is at 42. But you can change your hand trap ratio. You can cut them, whatever you like. Alright, so we play 3 Effect Veiler because it's a light and it's not once per turn, and Veiler is really good this format. There's nothing else to say. We play 3 copies of Artifact Lancia. You typically want to play light hand traps. I feel like 6, you can get away with 6, but I always like playing more because, you know, Construct is good, right? Then you play 2 copies of Nibiru, or I play 2 copies of Nibiru. You can play anything here. You can play Bell, you can play DD Crow, you can play any other hand trap you want. I just prefer to have the light hand traps for Construct. You can also play Phantasme and such things like that. And then, of course, you play the 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. This is probably the most flexible hand trap in the format. That's going to be it for the hand traps. That's going to move on to the spells. Of course, we play 3 Magical Meltdown. Magical Meltdown, everybody says that it's just 3 additional copies of Alistair. That is correct, but it's also much more than that. Meltdown prevents your opponent from negating cards and effects that include a fusion summon in its text, or an effect that includes something like that. I don't want to read it. It's right there. Yu-Gi-Oh players don't read. You should know that. And also, your opponent cannot respond to the fusion summon. So if you have chain links, for instance, like Shaddoll Construct and Abkalom, which trigger on summon, your opponent cannot respond to those effects. Moving on, we play 3 copies of Nadir Servant. You prefer to see the Nadir Servant over the Dogmatika monsters, 100%, because this card gets your Shaddoll engine started and also can break boards. Card is very good, very versatile. Then you play 3 Shaddoll Fusion, the best fusion in the deck. This card always gets ashed. It's ash bait even though you don't want it to be ash bait. But the card is very good. It's very strong. The reason it can get ashed is because like even turn 1, or even if your opponent doesn't have a monster that is special summoned from the extra deck, is because the card includes an effect to send from deck to graveyard. Does that make sense? It's all part of the effect, which is why it can get ashed. Then you play 2 Invocation. We don't play Desires, which is why we play 2. If you want to play Desires, you can totally play Desires. And you can play 3 Invocation. Totally up to you, though. I don't play Invocation. Obviously we play Invocation. I don't play Plot of Desires. So you play 2. This recurs your Alistair back to your hand after you banished it. Then you play 2 El Shaddoll. A lot of lists either play 1 or don't play it at all. I feel like that's incorrect, especially with Valor and Imperm in the format. This card is very good. It helps you dodge anything, any hand traps like the ones that I included. Then the 1-ofs, we play Foolish Burial. This card is very versatile. I love this card so much. Going second, if you draw this card, you can send Genius and it'll force a negate from your opponent, because Genius, when it's sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can target a monster, I think a monster your opponent controls, or just a monster in general, I'm not really sure. And that monster cannot activate its effects for the rest of the turn. So it's going to force a negate. Also, it can send any of your Shaddoll cards, so you can get those effects if you need them. And then sometimes it has come up for me where you can actually send Alistair off of this, and then use your Aerial to banish your Alistair, and then recur it with Invocation that's already in the graveyard. Something to keep in mind, because it can't come up, and it's happened to me before, and I've used that effect. And I've used Foolish Burial to get Alistair in grave so that I can recycle it and then normal summon it and go from there. 1 Call by the Grave. This card is very good. It stops any hand trap. Just be careful with what you're gonna call by the grave, because it will stop it for the next turn, not just that turn. So if you have the same hand trap in your hand, that hand trap is dead the following turn. And then you play the 1 Terraforming. Terraforming is just another copy of Meltdown and another copy of Alistair. You play it because you want to see the Meltdown. I feel like even if you get drolled, as long as you have Meltdown, your opponent not being able to respond to your fusion summons is very important. So you can cut the Terraforming if you want. It's up to you. I like the Terraforming because I like having that extra copy of Meltdown. Alright guys, moving on to the traps. We played 3 traps and only 3 traps. We played Shaddoll Schism, Rest Shaddoll Incarnation, and 1 Dogmatika Punishment. I feel like this is standard. This one, I've seen some builds that don't play the Resh. It's understandable if you don't want to play it, but this gives you a grind game. That's why I play it, and I like the card. It comes up. Moving on to the extra deck. There are some cards in here that I play that a lot of people don't play, and some of my friends disagree with the card choices that I make, but it is what it is. I'm still going to play the cards. I don't care. So moving forward, we're going to be playing 2 El Shaddoll Wendy. I feel like this is standard. 1 is too little, 3 is too much. You shouldn't need a 3rd one, and also you can record this card with App Clone if you need to. 2 Construct. A lot of people play 3. You can play 3. I don't really miss the 3rd one, but the 3rd one can come up. If you're not really careful with your resources, you will miss the 3rd one, so be careful. Or just play the 3rd one, whatever you feel like playing. I'm not gonna tell you not to do it. Then you play 2 App Cologne. If there was one that I would play 3 of, it would be App Cologne, but for right now we play 2. Resummoning this with Rest Shaddoll is fun because it gives you a negate, and then when it goes to grave, it generates you advantage, right? You can add Wendy, discard Wendy. You can add Aerial, discard Aerial, and get those effects. You can add Schism, discard something else. You know, it searches you anything that you need when it's sent to the graveyard. So this card is very flexible. I like this card a lot. Moving on to the links. Pretty standard. The 1 Gravity Controller, the 1 Moon Maiden, and of course the 1 Verte Anaconda. Verte Anaconda can allow you to steal games when you're behind. And then moving forward, these next 2 cards are the cards that pretty much nobody plays anymore. But it's Cross Sheep and Appaloosa. Now, the reason I play Cross Sheep is because through the times that I played this deck, I found myself needing to link away my fusion monsters so I can recur my resources from the graveyard, but I found myself having to make Anaconda and then not using the Anaconda effect. Does that make sense? So I opted to play another Link 2 that does something for the deck, which is Cross Sheep. So you summon the Cross Sheep, right? You'll say you link away your window or your construct. You recur your Shaddoll fusion to your hand, or your L Shaddoll fusion to your hand. Then you go ahead and you fusion summon. You summon it to one of these arrows, and guess what? You get a free level 4, and then you can link into an Appaloosa if you have the necessary tools, which most of the time you should. These negates come in clutch, mid to late game. Like after turn 3, this card is insane and it's good. Now moving on to the Invoke cards. We play the one Caliga, the one Agoides, and the one Makaba. I feel like Makaba and Agoides are very standard. Not everybody plays Caliga, but having more floodgates in the deck, like when you can't make Winda, you can make Caliga, and this can be tough for your opponent to out. And then the last card, of course, is going to be Elder Entity Entes for the punishment target when we need it, or for the Nadir target when we need to break boards. But yeah, that's going to be it for the extra deck. That's going to be it for the deck profile, guys. Let me know if there's some changes you guys would make to the deck. A lot of people wouldn't play the cards that I play, but through testing, I felt that it's necessary. Last thing, if you don't have the Dogmatika cards, don't fret. You can just play more hand traps, or you can play backward removal. It's really up to you guys what you want to play. That just gives you 6 extra spots. I would recommend playing 3 punishment regardless if you don't have them. If you don't have the Nadir Sherman and the Ecclesia and all that. Because 3 punishment can be a pseudo starter, sending your Apollon to grave and getting your Shaddoll engine started. And such things like that. And also it can be 2 interruptions. So just something to keep in mind. That's going to be it for us here, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. Don't forget to hit a like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave the notification bell on, because we're going to be dropping more content, all right? So stay tuned. Peace.